Next up, we have Hashem Shubbar, who's working on the Open Meta protocol, really at the intersection of Web 2 and Web 3 and kind of onboarding mass markets. And then we've got Sander Gans, who is the CEO and founder of Suplane and World of Freight, and also Bored Ape 95, correct? So anyway, give it up for these two. Thank you so much.
Hello all. Nice to be with you, and hopefully we can bring you some good value. I have to say thank you to Mika and Russ for great discussion, because I personally believe as well that when it comes to anything in blockchain games, then it needs to be game first, and then the blockchain side latter. And that's something that we, together with Hashem, are very much pushing, because we're on the development tool side of helping to give the gamers or the game studios different tools of how to put in the blockchain elements, so that they could focus just on the gameplay and still get the value out of everything. And we have the experience of doing everything completely wrong on my side. We started a game with engineers building it and doing all the blockchain stuff. That's why we built all the infrastructure that now can be used by everyone else. While our game might be more strategic, less just normal fun. But and then other than that, I've been in tech for the last 10 plus years. We started by building supply chain focused utilities, even our own blockchain. Currently, we paused it because the market is like it is, and it doesn't make sense to launch it. But we're continuing with our game and the infrastructure for game studios. So if anyone wants to talk about this afterwards, happy to chat. But Hashem, how about you? Who are you?
So we've been working on this NFT interoperability layer, which allow NFTs to exist in mainstream games and also in films. The idea is we've been looking into how game studios in Web3 are trying to implement NFTs in games. And what we realize is that they are trying to target a really, really small market. If you're making games, you should make games for the entire game population, which is the 2.9 billion gamer, not just for 50,000 people. So that's what we've been working on, and this is what we've been implementing so far. Right now, we are able to bring non-fungible tokens to mainstream games in PlayStation 5 and Xbox and hopefully Nintendo one day.
Yeah. Once you do Nintendo, then I can finally play.
Yeah.
Nintendo only for now.
Yeah, that's cool.
But we were just before chatting something that why do you actually need tokens in games at all? And we can list 4 things, which are the main things. First of all, is the proof of ownership, that you own it, you can do stuff with it, and whatever. Then it's the liquidity, and it's not the earning, it's the liquidity, meaning that you can sell it and maybe get some money back. Sometimes you might even earn money, but most times you're just making some money back and maybe renting it out and earning something from that. Then there's the enriched utility, that you can actually take assets which you own, which you can rent out, but which you can also then on-chain customize, on-chain upgrade, and make sure that if a game server goes down, then the upgrades are still there. And if you then take this thing that you own, and then the 4th thing, portability, take it to the other game, you potentially could take your experiences to the other games. I was just finishing up the old game, for maybe someone of you knows Kingdom Hearts. And then after that, right away started playing Kingdom Hearts 2. And I was so pissed that I couldn't get any of my experience points from one game to another. It's the same game, Nintendo. You have to do better.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think fundamentally what gamers want to do is when they own an asset, they want full ownership of that asset.
They first want to have fun, and then they want to have the ownership.
Well, yeah, that's true. But the only reason they want full ownership of their assets is that because they want to own it, and as you said, if they want to exit their life cycle as a gamer, they want to return it back and get some of their money back. Or the other thing is that they want to be able to use these game assets in multiple games. And I think this is something a lot of people are pushing for. It make a lot of sense, especially if we're talking about the metaverse. We're talking about all this kind of connected worlds between games and virtual environments. And again, the last one is enriching the user experience. So why would we need NFTs as game assets? What is the difference between NFTs and normal game assets? The answers for us is that NFTs could exist as different things in different games. Your ENS could exist as your name service in your wallet, but in one game, it could give you superpower. The other game, it could unlock a new secret mission for you. A third game, it could, make you fly. And that's the aspect of NFTs in mainstream games.
Or perhaps it's kind of like, what's the most important part about NFTs? And after all, NFTs are just a container of data. There's nothing else there. The container might have some art in it, but it's just data. And when it comes to real-world assets, then if you play card games, and I've been playing too much Magic Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, and I still have tens of thousands of cards if anyone wants. But the thing with there is that all the data about this particular card, what it does, everything else is on the card. Now, if you go into the game world, you have this character or the gun, and then the information is not there. But what you can do with the NFT is that everything, again, is there. And if you then do use portability or some financial aspects or something third, then depending on what's inside this metadata, you can have different types of effects. And that's the real thing, is just the container of data which enables you to do various things that you couldn't have done before, because before it was just art, just utility in this particular game, and nothing else. Now it's more.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think this is why where NFTs excels. NFTs could excel as this universal digital assets that could exist in games, and they're not limited to one game, and we could take data from them, and then it's up to the game developer to decide what kind of data they want to extract from this particular NFT, and what information that they don't feel is needed in certain games. If you have a game asset as a gun, how are you going to use it in a racing car game that is different, right? Some people say, well, it doesn't make any sense, but it could make a lot of sense if the game developers say, this is how we want to utilize it in this game. So you give the freedom to game developer, you allow them to have control of their game, while you allow the user to have control of their assets.
And then when you take tools that enable you to generate new types of metadata that may be on this NFT or kind of like separately there, then what you can do is you can start tracking the usage of this thing. You can if you're a professional player, you can be checking like, this guy is actually putting in the hours. And we can see, and this guy is on average winning more because of this and that. Or you can go back in history and like, I want to get this sword that this freaking Leroy Jenkins guy was using there, and I just want to buy this one. And then if you have it on the metadata there, it's like, I want to buy this regardless of everything else. Just the ownership of the history of ownership is what I care about.
What I think is going to be really, really fun with NFTs in games is that, so you have this item, and let's say you're not really a good player in this game, but you have a friend who's killing it up there. You just lend it to them, and they go and make the best of it, right? And then that's it. Your item is, get more power up or whatever the game is.
That's what we have inside our World of Freight as well, that some people have been upgrading their vehicles, and then they have been upgrading their drivers as well, and then they rent it out to the other folks who just use it to play and to win and stuff, while they did their task, and they provided value in this way. And I think this is where, coming back from my history from supply chain, I can see those things that it's not about the asset and using it now, it's about all the data it can be producing. And yesterday we were chatting that we had this one idea. It was kind of like a random idea for us, that we have driving game. Vehicles in real world are emitting carbon. So maybe we should start some sort of carbon payment process that can be do good at the same time. So depending on the vehicle, if you're with a tanker and it's doing too much emissions, then you have to pay more. And if you're using a small delivery droid, you have to pay a little bit less. And then, heck hell, yesterday at the VIP speaker dinner, I found one guy that's already adding the carbon emissions and carbon marketplaces into their game. So there are funny things you can do, which are, in a way, can be just joy at the moment. But if you use this as an experience to then take this utilities and later put it into real world, then it's great. Because the reason we currently postpone the supply chain thing is because we see that these guys are still trying to get from paper to Excel in many cases, or from mainframe to cloud. And giving them the let's sell blockchain is going to be kind of like a hard sell for another 3 years. But if you then use blockchain in fields where there's already demand, like in gaming, build up the technology, build up the data and everything else, you can later use the same technology in other fields as well.
I mean, the gaming industry has been always the driver of innovation in
And porn, gaming and porn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with porn, but yeah. So yeah, gaming is really, really good for driving innovation, to experiment with multiple things. And I think this is one of the best things we could do, is build infrastructure for game studios, for indie game developer, for filmmakers, to use those tools and use those new digital assets in a way that enhance them. Music NFTs in games and in films will change a lot too. And people will realize that really soon. The process of licensing a game, or even an IP in a game or a film, is completely complex. When you bring the blockchain into that equation, you could make it really simple. You could allow people to drag a music track from an interface to their project, and that's it. Pay the fee, done. They don't have to complicate, to have a complex negotiation with someone. There is nothing happening. It's just one track you drag, and that's it.
And one thing that we all have to do, all of those that are building and those that are using and kind of like investing and giving our money to others to build, we need to push for us simplifying everything. First of all, NFT is a good term as a technical term for this container of metadata. But when it comes to going to the gamers, then digital assets or digital avatars, like we now like to call them in Reddit, is the way to go, because it's again simpler. Same with all the toolings that we can provide. It needs to go simpler and simpler and simpler.
I think
if we want to use it.
I think there is no point calling them NFTs if we're going into gaming. Just call them digital assets and hide everything in the background. And this is what we did. We're hiding everything in the background. People have no idea how many transactions are happening, what is going on, what blockchain is this. They just see their assets. They exist in multiple blockchains, and they get all of them into the game. If you own assets in 7 to 8 blockchains, you could get them at the same time in the same game. You don't have to connect with a wallet, nothing at all. It's a simple connection. You plug in your game, and that's it. It works.
Yeah, it's same. What we have done from the very early days is that if you want to use NFTs that actually have some value, whether it's Bored Apes or any other later ones, then you can actually do it so that your game doesn't have to be on Ethereum in order to use the NFTs that are on Ethereum. In our case, we have Ethereum NFTs, we have all the game on Polygon, and now we're thinking of adding a third layer into it in order to make it simpler and cheaper. Yeah. So that's the thing, that's multi-chain for sure.
I mean, there was also the aspect of on-chain and off-chain gaming. I think
both at the same time.
I think off-chain gaming is actually make more sense, because you don't want to compromise the performance of the game. Gamers do not want to wait this 5 seconds or 10 minutes for a transaction to go through the blockchain. And if any of you have been here in 2017 with CryptoKitties just uphold the entire blockchain of Ethereum for, I can't even remember how long, but it was an awful experience, and Ethereum became unusable with, I don't know how many, but it's probably less than 100,000 people. So you can imagine what is going to happen if we have 1 million user or 12 million users, like the ones using Fortnite. Nothing's going to work.
Well, it's exactly, there's only two reasons why you want to do something on chain. You want to either save the new version of the metadata that you have been doing, or you want to sell stuff on open marketplaces. And that's something that there's one very interesting game, Estonian Project Nebula, 4x super hard space tech stuff. And in there, it's built on Icon blockchain. They're currently moving it because they realize it's dead. And in there, it's so that you have the NFTs. Everything is an NFT. But then you have the in-game and the real wallet. And you only have to do things on the real wallet if you're trying to buy it from the marketplace. Everything else is happening in-game. There's no transaction fees, no nothing. And that's something that really, again, simplifies for the end customers. And they're still even looking to even simplify this side of the wallet marketplace side.
I think the best way, as I said, just hide that in the background. So it's not a wallet. You log in into your profile, you find game assets, you buy them with fiat, because that's what a lot of people would do. You know, I'm a huge fan of like giving people the power of like controlling their keys, their assets, and using whatever blockchain they want to be able to go and identify that this is a blockchain mechanism since 2017. But what we saw in the last 2 years is that people still use exchanges. They still want the easiest way to interact with these assets. So I think that's the best way to go.
Before we're going to be pushed off, just a last point. I don't agree that we need to be only doing fiat payments.
We do both.
I very much love that we have to do our RuneScape gold purchases, and we have our Silk Road gold purchases and other things. So it's like it can always be the in-game currencies, but of course you can have to have on-ramps and stuff.
You allow the two experiences. You give Web2 users their easy way of dealing with the game assets, and you give the power users the ability to go and have full control of everything. And that's the best approach.
So if any of you is playing a game and you need someone to give you interoperable avatars and other assets into the game, then talk to this guy. And if you want NFT renting and other super technical stuff into the game and don't want to touch the goat, then we can talk. Otherwise, enjoy the event.
Yeah, thank you guys.